challenge of the FeaR Food 2022. And don't forget the almond swap of 2022.
Almond swap. How are you guys doing? Thought we would do a sneak attack and go live this afternoon. How you like that?
I like that. So why did I decide to do a FeaR Food challenge? What I was doing is something called ERT, which is exposure reaction therapy. And what you're doing is just because I have very severe OCPD, or you can also know it as OCD. I've had this since I was a child. And other comorbidities, I should say, like ADHD, complex PTSD, trichotillomania, eating disorder, exercise bulimia, anorexia nervosa, a long list of comorbidities. And so and I'm very transparent with you guys because it's not all rainbows and sunshines, I choose to stay positive. I have to make that choice every single day because when I'm in a dark place, I don't do healthy things. I hurt myself and, in so many different areas, and I don't want to do that anymore. I want to it's just been awesome. I'm just so excited. There were so many good foods that I tried and great suggestions from everyone. It's like you guys knew she might be afraid of this food, might be afraid of this one. And yeah, you were right. And what was a FeaR food was basically anything that was not currently in my eating plan. And during the pandemic, people had, the quarantine and all of that. We all went through a lot of loss, and it was hard. And OCD and some other behaviors got really, really bad. I haven't had OCD get this bad I don't remember ever it being that bad. So what I wanted to do with OCD is do the exposure therapy. And it really did help. It became so much easier. And the best part was I'm doing it with you guys because I trust you. You're my family. And I love you. What was that, Rod?
Well, I was just going to say, I'm going to field the questions or comments to chime in over here.
Perfect.
And to keep it easy. Ann Perez says, "Hi, girl.
What's up, Ann?
What was your favorite food on the challenge?" I asked her this last night, actually.
You know what? That was a hard one. That's a hard one. Because, I do like spam French fries. That's for sure. But
how about the one that I actually made?
What do you mean? Oh, of foods that you made?
Yeah.
Gosh. Your pizza was really good.
It's really that good.
It was really good.
I think I put too much sauce on it. I think it made it too flimsy.
And
a little less sauce, maybe.
And right? Easy. Yelling in my ear. There wasn't really a food I did not like. But I will say that cheeseburger incident, the next day it was hard on the GI. So that's why I was like a little, I was being careful. I can't really incorporate that much meat so fast because it's a bit
premature.
Yeah, but for me, it was more about taking my power back and saying, you don't own me food. We're having a better relationship, and I'm learning to be kinder to myself. Because, I want to tell you guys something. A lot of people will say, you're so lucky, you're so fortunate that you did all, you have so much support. But there is a flip side to all this. Rod and I have gone through a lot of hardships with coming out with the eating disorder. It didn't come without its hang-ups. We've been stalked, harassed, bullied, threatened. It's not been easy. So honestly, if you're in recovery, please be very careful about how you open up with it publicly. I know that I did it, but it did come with a lot of setbacks. At my worst, when I was in ICU in the hospital, there were people stalking and threatening me, and it was hard. But the best part has been the reward of this connection. You guys are my fam, and I love you so much. And you guys inspire me. And so a question was just asked. Rod, did you see how long?
How long have you guys been together? Hello, Julie GB.
Hi, Julie. We've been together, oh goodness, 19 years?
Something like that. So it's
19 years?
I
2003?
met you at the end of 2003.
Yeah, about then, about 2003.
Well, I met you then.
Yeah.
Met you then.
Well, I kind of wasn't.
And then I would say probably 2004 where things started to kick in. We'll call it.
Well, but honestly, I really liked him from the get-go. I remember when I saw him the first time, I'll tell you the story later, but it was really, our meeting story was kind of like, I got hit with a thunderbolt, let's just say. And you know what? People are asking, some people will ask in some of the comments, well, have you made any improvements? I couldn't really even talk. Then no one's taking that away from me. Did I have
behavioral strides as
well?
big
Time. Oh my gosh. I want to just also talk about something that has been plaguing me. You know, this term came to mind. We've heard the term a functioning alcoholic, right? We've heard that term where someone still has these problems with alcohol, but they're still functioning. You know, I thought of something a few weeks ago that I wanted to share. Is one thing I don't want to be is a functioning anorexic. You know, all because I have more capabilities doesn't mean I need to stay in this condition. So that term came to mind, that I want to keep improving, because really anorexia is scary. It doesn't come without its hangups. It's really hard, and we don't arrive to the condition the same. People have to understand, for me, mine is trauma induced. I've had a lot of abuse that I'm getting through. I'm never going to get over it, but I can move through it. So what happens when I start looking more like a female body, I start panicking because it's not safe. It's not safe. So for me, I have to get this weight gradual so my brain can handle it as well, if that makes sense. You have a question?
Well, not the one for you. I hope you enjoy your
not the
salmon,
one for you.
peas, and wild rice.
I love her.
But if you want to read this one on the bottom.
Sure. Video suggested it was from Had You Gotten Better? Ooh, from 6. You know what had happened? A lot of times.
Well, what's the question?
Oh,
you don't know what it is.
I know I asked this once, but a video a while back suggested, after watching one you posted, it was from 6 years ago where you had gotten better. I'm curious what helped then and what didn't. What from a while ago when I did get better, I'm thinking you're talking about when I came back from Portugal, when I was more restored. I didn't have enough time in the water with Portugal. I ran out of funds, because that's what I used the GoFundMe money for, was to go get help. And coming back too soon. Honestly, 3 months is nothing when you're going through, you're rewiring your whole neural network. Neuroplasticity takes years to go through, which is why I don't understand why treatment is so limited here in the United States. It's really it's really unnerving. So it's been a roller coaster, that I will say. And there are times when I've been able to it looks like I've put weight on, but the majority of it was edema. So people will look at me and say, oh, you've restored your body. And inside I was crumbling, because I knew the water was going to go off and then I was going to get crap again. Oh, you lost it. Oh, you lost it. Well, that water comes on super fast. If you can possibly be thinking, in just a couple days, I almost doubled my body weight with just water, and I couldn't breathe. I couldn't function. It was suffocating. It looked good.
What was some of the, the better style treatment that you had, as opposed to the not so good style treatment that you had?
I'll tell you, I don't really like to talk about the treatment modalities in the United States because I don't want to discourage, because I advocate for going to treatment. Absolutely, 100%, 1,000%. But I ask you to go search out for informed treatment. Know what you're expecting. Research into it, because for me, the coercion, and I'll speak from I statements. I've had assaults, physically and other things. So coercion, for me, which is a lot of what they've done when I've gone to treatment facilities, it would work right then because of fear, because I was afraid. Okay, I'll just do what they say right now. I'll just do what they say right now. Bullying, that, just taking things over, it didn't work for me long term. And so when I went to Portugal, I was shocked.
It was night and day.
I was shocked. They
It's
didn't
crazy.
bully, they didn't force. They were just presented the food and just loved on me. And I did so good. So good then. And honestly, I wish I would have stayed. If I could have afforded it, I wish I would have stayed there.
It's also they went to the hospitals as well, leading up until then, because you couldn't even go into the therapy.
Yeah.
Initially.
Yeah, I was in the hospital in Portugal for almost 2.5 months, I think. So the majority of it, they were coming and visiting me, which was, they didn't even have to do that. So, and see, in the hospitals in the United States and even in Portugal, it was not easy, because hospitals, you have to go to a hospital who knows how to refeed, because people say, why don't you just go to a hospital and treatment center? Well, because I don't want to put my life in danger again. I was put into heart, liver, and kidney failure for something very simple to correct at the time. It was just like I needed a bit of potassium, or it would have been a low blood sugar, and they almost killed me. And
Well, they wouldn't keep you in there too because of your organs. And we went to 4 different hospitals there years ago, and
that was at the end of, or mid-end of 2019.
Yeah, we kind of got the boot on all 4 accounts.
Yeah,
even
because
on your birthday they kicked you out.
They kicked me out on my birthday on 2019. Yeah. It's weird. It's a bizarre system, and those of you who've been in this system can attest to it. I have people who are like, I don't believe a dang word that you're saying, and then they experience themselves and they were like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. What happens is there's a gray area. My organs aren't failing, so check out, and I'm not healthy enough to go to a treatment center. So there's this middle gray, and I'm not going to get stuck in the gray. I'm going to keep going. I just got to keep going. And the momentum, when you have good momentum, you want to keep it going. And you guys are my connection and support. So you inspire me a lot.
So let's talk about the 21-day challenge. She wasn't talked into it. She didn't have a therapist tell her about it. I didn't prompt it. And actually, while we were filming the first one, it kind of transformed. The very first one, because we were just going to do one. And then she was suggesting to get some advice on some suggestions, and we kind of ran from there. And then you go randomly go, I'm going to do this 21 days.
Well, 21 days, theoretically, to form a habit, why not? So that's what made me think of it. But yeah, it was me that was saying it. It wasn't someone else. I was like, you know what? Recovery is hard. It's an arduous, long process that takes time, effort, and awareness, constant awareness. So I thought, why not make it fun? Why not have some fun in recovery? Because it's typically not that fun.
Well, and then also you had the accountability, because there were some
Big
days
time
that she was like, you know what, we're going to need to skip today. Or, you know what I mean? But whenever it came down to the time to do it, she stepped up on a number of occasions. Whenever I thought, well, I guess we'll skip one, and I didn't pressure you, and I was like, you know what, if you feel you can't, I don't want to I want support without shaming, basically, you know.
And that was honestly what helped a lot, because there was no force again. I get triggered when people force me to do things because of, the prior experience. So it's much more exciting when it comes from me, from my voice. And people will say, well, what kind of progress? I told you, it was so bad during the pandemic quarantining. All of you have gone through these hard times of isolation. Mental health crises is on the uprise. So when people are confused about why I struggled during the quarantine, I'm like, didn't everybody
I
did?
think everybody.
So why
did.
wouldn't people with an eating disorder have even a harder time? When you're already, like, it's that same example. I would say, when you see someone struggling, or it's like watching your neighbor's house on fire, do you want to go put gasoline on it and shame, like all of those things? Or when you see someone like that, you want to put water, put out the fire. How can I help? And that's where I come from, is I have a lot of empathy for all of you. And I just want to know how I can help more. That's it. Keeping it where, and there are times where we have these hard conversations. It's not all like just fun and bubbles. There are direct conversations, because there's time when there's enabling and you're not realizing it. And there are times, that and Leanna, you just brought up a good point. Coercion does nothing to address mental barriers with food, especially with trauma. Amen to that. And not the one for you. Oh, more goals this next month? Are you kidding? You know I told you I'm not going to leave you guys hanging.
It's never over.
We actually have a surprise coming up, and we're going to be, I'm not going to say what it is.
Hence the surprise part.
But I wouldn't leave you guys hanging like this. We're family. You guys have been my support network, and I'm yours. And how I can help and how Rod can help, you let us know what you'd like to see more of here. I'll be honest, after a while, there were a couple days. I think there were 2 days when I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know that I can do it. I don't know. Because, one other thing before I forget to mention, I was actually making a lot of improvements in the quarantine, and I started adding a lot of food. And it was actually, I was doing really well. And then grief hit. I lost some family during the pandemic and friends, and I'll be honest, I lost my bud, my baby, my cat. It sounds silly, but he was my baby, and he's been with me. My mom got him for me when I started. I started anorexia, and she got him for me to help me.
He ran away, so
survive. Yeah.
There is a chance he's out in the mountains and he's being
I wish that were the
hopefully
case.
He's okay,
but somebody found his collar, and he would have come home. But anyhow, and I lost my fish within the same breath, and now it looks like my dog is going to be passing soon. So I'm learning to deal with grief.
You never know with Ike, though. Ike may surprise us and hang out a little longer than anticipated.
Well,
he's a warrior, and he gets it from you.
It's been 14 years, and understandably, we're in a palliative moment with him. But honestly, the losing Bud was, I'm not just saying this, he was my boy. And it's so hard because he would bump my head every day, and now it's like I still hear him in my house. I still hear his bell. I still sometimes hear him meow. It's like an echo. And I sabotage myself when I grieve. So I did experience, I had to start over with a lot of nutrition. because I screwed up. And I'm very transparent with you guys. People ask me sometimes what I eat and what my behaviors are. There's a reason I omit that stuff. It's because I know why some people are asking. They're trying to find out what I've done so they can do it too. And I will never reveal that stuff because I will not be the one encouraging this kind of behavior. And I know how the brain works. I know that kind of fishing that people do. I've done it. So I understand it. But I want to report something on a good note. I'm not afraid of these fear foods anymore. I really feel like I can have anything without the anxiety.
I'm just surprised you went from banana, milk, and rice, and then the last week
Rice
you had
cereal,
pasta, pizza, ice cream,
French fries, cheeseburger.
and a cheese. Yeah,
I
French
mean,
fries.
all of those things. And you know what else I wanted to share with you guys of another win was, I don't know if, I'm sure some of you are familiar with this term, but those of you who aren't, there's something called body checking. Body checking is when a person with an eating disorder checks their body, whether they grab their arm, measuring it, or measuring certain parts of their body. I've eliminated every single body check. The only thing I have remaining is that I push my stomach to kind of make me go to the restroom. But that one is, that's the last one I'm working on. All body checking eliminated. You know, and this is what I had to do for myself. And I don't know if this will help anyone else. But please, if you have ideas that helped you stop body checking, please put it below. What helped me was it provided me relief and pleasure when I would do it, when I would body check. There was some sort of euphoric release, like, oh. But you know what? It wasn't helping. I was saying, this is what I would say to myself. Is this going to perpetuate the problem, or is this going to stop the problem? And body checking was only going to keep going if I continued to do it. It was a negative reinforcement, but it was still a reinforcer. And I've been able to stop that, which I am very, very proud of.
Did you pick something else to do in place of that habit in that routine? Like instead of body checking, you would shift to do something different?
I actually, initially I avoided mirrors. And then,
like in the moment you were getting ready to body check, would you flip the TV on, or how would you go about?
You wanted to know that the truth is, honestly, I would pray.
Well, that would work.
I would pray. I would pray and talk to God and about it. And you know what helped is that I know you guys might think, oh, you know, she might not know us. Oh, I do know you. All the comments, I know your names, and I pray for you. And that's one of the things that helped me, as praying for you. And I would pray for myself. It took me a long time to be able to pray for myself and to wish those things for myself, but it happened. And that I am so grateful for. You have no idea how much I love you guys. You have no idea. Even through the hurtful comments, they do hurt, but I still love on you regardless. Florida girl, how old were you when you developed your eating disorder? I actually came to the game really late. It didn't start when I was a young girl, a teenager in my 20s. It actually happened in my mid-late 20s. And I was going through a lot of abuse. And that's the God's honest truth. The God's honest truth, I was just going through abuse. And I am just going to keep doing and just keep. I never give up. You know, that's one thing about me. I keep trying. I keep fighting. I'll find a way. I will find a way to get through this, and I will. And, you know, people will just say, just try harder. Oh, believe me, it's not about just trying harder. It's also about letting the awareness and the brain change. I do try every day. And there are times when I would try harder and nothing would happen, but it doesn't mean I don't give up.
You gotta show up.
Yeah. And you have to understand there's a lot of neurology that comes into play. I'm going to give you an example. And I know I've been going on a bit long, so I won't be much longer. I want to give you guys a break from me. But one of the things is if you look up NEDA, and this is not NEDA, I'm not talking about the National Eating Disorder Association, NIDA, the National Institute for Drug and Alcohol, I do believe is how it is. And they have these studies out that show, like, I want to give some props out to the people who binge, because I know about binging. People will just say, you don't binge. Oh, no, I know about binging. They did studies showing how they do PET imaging, PET, where they do, they scan the brain. They show people with a healthy brain and a person with addiction, like let's say drug addiction. They show a very striking response of the reduction of dopamine and the dopamine receptors, and also the mesolimbic dopaminergic, I'm never say it right, dopaminergic pathways of the brain. And what that means is they're not lit up as much. So those who and even with, they did a correlation, they show that there's very low brain activity in those regions. So people have to do more of it, not to get high, but to light up like a normal brain, because there's a reduction in dopamine receptors. That also happens with binge eating. Overstimulation of binge eating shows the same level of reduction of dopamine and dopamine receptors, and that impacts your prefrontal cortex. So think about it. Do we always throughout the day have the same ability to self-control? No. Doesn't our ability to self-control varies through certain parts of the day with environmental stimuli? Think of like the McDonald's arches. You just need to see the arches, and then your brain starts thinking, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm hungry. That's environmental stimulation. That's how the brain works. So it impairs your prefrontal cortex, which is your executive functioning. I really encourage you to look up these studies. It's on the NIDA website. It's fascinating. Dr. Volkoff, Dr. Nora Volkoff. It's extraordinarily amazing of what they've discovered with the brain. So instead of just saying, we're not exerting a moral choice, it's not that you're just not trying hard enough. That's not how it works. We fight like hell trying to get out of this dang disease. It's just not as simple as that.
I'm a witness.
And a lot of us have multiple comorbidities. With anorexia nervosa, there's a lot of things that come along with it. For me, it was complex PTSD. I also went through undiagnosed combined in ADHD for a long time. OCD, trichotillomania, anxiety disorder, self-harm, depression. There are so many parts of the brain that are impacted and impaired as a result of it. And one thing, everything psychological, think about it, becomes biological. Not necessarily the reverse, but everything psychological becomes biological. Stress, all of it. There's a study with Kaiser and the CDC about adverse childhood experiences called ACEs. They tracked 17,500 people, adults, showing the higher the ACE score of traumatic experiences as a child related to ischemic heart disease, lung problems, cancer, all of these awful, awful conditions. And you would go, oh, but that would make sense because when you use substances, you're going to have parts of the body that are impacted. That was independent of substance use. Those rates of ischemic heart disease and cancers were all independent of substance use. That was just adverse childhood experiences, which tell us that what we experience is very young, and I did have abuse, a lot of it, impacts our mental health later in life. So remember, that awful narrative that I have in my head and that you might have, we don't need to add to that negative narrative. That's why you won't hear me chastising and shaming and guilting. What good does that do? I don't know that it's done I've never seen anyone do better from that. But when you get a complete sense of self, that you are somebody who is important, that you are someone who is loved, and that you have value. That's why I say I love you and flip it. I know that this took me a really long time to even look at my hand and say, I love you. But I'm starting to love myself.
I'm so proud of you. And it was so funny before we started to do this. She was like, I don't know, what should we talk about? I go, I think that as soon as it goes live, you'll think of something and you'll have some things to talk about. It's so funny. And then, she's like a little faucet of just love and knowledge,
And see, what's funny is that's what happened with school. All of these things I've learned with school, which gave me power. And it's like, it's not my fault. It's not my fault, but I can make a choice to help myself get better. And I didn't see somebody just made a comment, Florida girl. I want to just address your last. I'm curious, when someone has anorexia and sees someone severely overweight, what are your thoughts? I'm curious if you see things differently or how that works. Very great question, Florida girl, because I have body dysmorphia, another disorder, right? But that is how I see myself. When I see someone overweight, I don't, what I think isn't what you would expect. I don't go, oh my gosh, they can't control themselves or something like that. I don't think any of those things. I just see them and just understand they might have an eating problem, and I understand that. Or they might have a physical condition, which I've learned. My very first dietitian that I ever had was overweight. And I was like, ooh, I don't know if I could listen to a dietitian who's overweight. I'm scared. What if she tries to, those were the kind of thoughts I had at first. And I found out this was a bazillion years ago. I'm talking like a long time ago, maybe like 17, 18 years ago. And I found out she had a condition. And that sobered me up so fast of, oh my gosh, I never even thought of that. I never even thought of that. And now learning more about why people overeat and binge, it makes so much sense. Because in the United States, what they've done to our food is they've made the food like salt, sugar, and fat they've taken it to a different level.
Addictive, so
right,
come back and you can
exactly
make money.
They've made it so addictive that it passes our satiety. So we're not it doesn't help crunch that hunger, right? It just stimulates it further. So we have to fight the environment stimuli, the images being thrown at us, the actual food itself that is being like excitability factor of it. So that's why I don't have any like bad things to say about people who are overweight or overeat. I don't get it. It just isn't in me to make those judgments. So I want you to know
well, you know what it's like to be shamed.
Oh gosh.
So the shaming factor definitely is something that I think we're all kind of like a little sensitive to,
Absolutely. And my other family member, immediate family member, is on the other end of the spectrum, on the, not with anorexia, but the other side. And I don't give her grief about it. I don't do those things. I came from a modality and a wanting to understand. So, and I know you guys can understand this. Imagine I'm showing the most vulnerable part of my life publicly. And you know what? I'm going to say now, that takes guts. Sharing your awful secrets that you've been holding with the world, and then imagine people going, meh, about that. I have a judgment about that. Bah. I'm like, wow, I wasn't expecting that, but the connections that I've been able to make with you have made it all worth it. And I'm going to continue to be a big old mouth about anti-anorexia, anti-eating disorders, and getting the proper help.
Do you know why? Because love wins
Heck yeah.
every time.
One of my favorite videos is a man named Johan Hari. He does this TED Talk about loving a person with addiction. And the antidote for addiction isn't isolation, isn't shame, isn't guilt, isn't force, is love. Just love them. Love them and don't leave them. And don't give up.
That's it. That's what it's all about, folks.
So don't worry, we're not going anywhere. We have a surprise coming up of what the next, let's say, part 2 of this adventure of the FeaR food is. So stay tuned.
It's obviously not over yet.
Oh no. Wait, it ain't over. This was too good. And it made it fun.
I gotta say though, my kitchen is much more clean now than it was before. Because I'm having people coming over watching me cook. I gotta make sure this thing's clean. And thank you for the accountability of me scrubbing the cupboards.
You know what you guys are? You guys are my accountability buddies. That's what I call you. You're my accountability buddies. I love just saying that word. So do this. Please, we're going to do more lives. Click the, if you didn't get notified, what you do is you click the subscribe button, and next to it, after that, click the bell. It will let you know, I love you more than you can possibly know.
And then also your questions and comments, we'll answer a lot of those on the next time we do a live. See
Yeah, we read all of these, but you know what Rod does? He reads some of the comments before me because he has protection because of, cyberbullying and trolls. I don't need to be thwarted off this. I'm going for recovery. So you guys are my accountability buddies, and I love the heck out of you. I love you, and it's not gonna go anywhere. So stay tuned, flip it, say that you're gonna love yourself, and poop unicorns and crap some rainbows, my loves.
Even
God
if it
bless
hurts.
you.
Even if it hurts. Let's do it.
Oh, I could eat you.
Love you guys.
I love you.
Until next time.
Bye, guys.